The massive ship floated in the darkness of space like a metal mountain. Inside its cold corridors, Ambassador Kethvar walked with heavy steps toward the command center. His scaled skin glowed green under the harsh lights. Behind him, General Zolnex followed, his military boots clicking on the metal floor. "Show me this new world again," Kethvar said as they entered the room full of screens and buttons. A younger Zephyrian officer pressed some controls. A blue planet appeared on the main screen, spinning slowly. Small dots of light showed cities on the dark side. "This is Earth," the officer said. "Third planet in what they call the Sol system. The humans live here." General Zulnex laughed. Sound like rocks grinding together. "Humans? They look soft and weak. No scales, no claws, no natural weapons. How did such creatures even survive long enough to build cities?" "They are new to space travel," the officer continued. "They only made their first faster-than-light ship about 50 years ago. They have small colonies on nearby planets, but nothing impressive." Kethvar studied the planet with his yellow eyes. "Perfect. Another easy conquest. How many ships do they have?" "Maybe 200 vessels total. Most are cargo ships or small fighters. Nothing that could threaten our fleet." "Excellent." Kethvar turned to face his general. "This will be simple. We show them our power, they surrender, and we add another species to our empire, just like all the others, far away from the Zephyrian ship." Captain Jake Morrison sat in the pilot seat of his cargo vessel. The New Horizon was not a beautiful ship. It was built for work, not looks. Its hull was scratched and dented from years of carrying supplies between Earth and the colonies. "Captain, we're getting a strange signal," said Ben Rodriguez from his seat at the communications panel. He was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and worried eyes. Jake turned in his chair. "What kind of signal?" "It sounds like a distress call, but the language is weird, and it's coming from the asteroid belt where no ships should be." Lisa Carter looked up from her engineering station. She was a small woman with red hair tied back in a ponytail. Her hands were always dirty from fixing things, but she could repair anything that broke. "Could be a ship in trouble. We should check it out." Jake thought about it. They were carrying medical supplies to Mars, and people there needed them. But if someone was in danger, they had to help. That was the rule of space. "Change course," he said. "Let's see what's out there." The New Horizon turned toward the asteroid belt. The signal got stronger as they got closer. Soon they could see a small ship floating between two large rocks. It looked damaged, with pieces of metal floating around it. "There," Ben pointed at his screen. "That's where the signal is coming from." "Any life signs?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her instruments. "Hard to tell. The ship's hull is blocking our scanners." Jake made his decision. "We go in. Get ready to help whoever is on that ship." But as the New Horizon moved closer, something felt wrong. The damaged ship looked too perfect, like someone had placed it there on purpose. Jake had been flying in space for 15 years, and he had learned to trust his gut feelings. "Wait," he said. "Something's not right about this." Before anyone could answer, space around them lit up with bright lights. 3 huge ships appeared from behind the asteroids, each one 10 times bigger than the New Horizon. They had been hiding, waiting. "Oh no," Ben whispered. Energy beams shot out from the big ships, but they didn't try to destroy the human vessel. Instead, the beams wrapped around it like invisible ropes holding it tight. The New Horizon stopped moving, trapped. "Engines are dead," Lisa reported. "They're pulling us in." Jake tried every trick he knew, but nothing worked. The alien ships were too strong. Slowly, they pulled the human cargo ship into the belly of the largest vessel. Inside the Zephyrian ship, lights came on as the New Horizon landed in a huge cargo bay. Jake and his crew could see alien figures moving around outside their ship. They were tall and covered in green scales with long arms and sharp teeth. "Are those lizard people?" Ben asked, his voice shaking. "Looks like it," Jake said. He was scared too, but he was the captain. He had to stay strong for his crew. The aliens surrounded their ship and aimed strange weapons at it. One of them, wearing what looked like an officer's uniform, stepped forward and spoke into a device. His words came through the ship's speakers in broken English. Humans inside ship. You come out now. No hurt if you obey. Jake looked at his crew. There were 6 of them total, including himself. They had no weapons except some tools, and their ship was trapped inside an alien vessel. They had no choice. Open. The door, Jake said quietly. The door of the New Horizon opened with a hiss. Jake walked out first, followed by Lisa, Ben, and the other 3 crew members. The aliens were even bigger up close, maybe 8 feet tall. The officer alien stepped forward. I am Commander Drex Cole. You are now prisoners of the Zephyrian Empire. You will be studied to help us understand your species. Studied? Lisa asked. What does that mean? Commander Drex Cole made a sound that might have been laughter. Your people think they are safe on their little blue world. They do not know we exist. But soon, we will visit them. We will show them the power of the Zephyrian Empire. They will kneel before us like all the others. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. You're making a mistake. Humans don't kneel to anyone. All species say that at first, the commander replied. But they all learn. Your people will be no different. The Zephyrian soldiers pushed the humans forward with their weapons. As Jake walked deeper into the alien ship, he tried to remember everything he saw. The layout of the corridors, the locations of doors, the types of weapons the guards carried. If they were going to escape and warn Earth, he needed to know everything about their captors. But escape seemed impossible. The ship was huge, full of aliens, and somewhere in deep space. Even if they got back to their own ship, it was trapped, and probably damaged. Still, Jake Morrison was not the kind of man who gave up easily. Neither were his crew. They would find a way to get home and warn Earth about what was coming. What the Zephyrians didn't know was that they had just made the biggest mistake in their long history of conquest. They thought humans would be easy to break, easy to study, easy to defeat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral Susan Blake stood in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha, staring at the big screen that showed the solar system. Red dots marked the locations of all human ships, and one of those dots had been missing for 3 days. The New Horizon should have reached Mars by now. Still no word from Captain Morrison? She asked. Lieutenant Commander Rick Hayes shook his head. Nothing, Admiral. We sent search ships to their last known position, but they only found debris. What kind of debris? That's the strange part. Most of it was from the New Horizon, but some pieces don't match anything in our databases. The metal is different, and there are energy burn marks we've never seen before. Admiral Blake felt a cold fear in her stomach. She had been in the military for 30 years, and she knew when something was very wrong. Get me Dr. Alan Foster. Now. 20 minutes later, Dr. Foster arrived at the command center carrying a metal case. He was a thin man with gray hair and thick glasses who spent his time studying the possibility of alien life. Most people thought his work was just theory, but Admiral Blake had always listened to his ideas. You wanted to see me, Admiral? Look at this. She showed him pictures of the strange debris on the main screen. Tell me what you think. Dr. Foster studied the images carefully. His face grew pale as he looked at each piece. Where did you find this? Near where the New Horizon disappeared. What is it, Alan? Dr. Foster was quiet for a long moment. It's not human technology. The metal composition is wrong, and these energy signatures. I've only seen patterns like this in my theoretical models. Are you saying this is alien? Yes. And if I'm right about these weapon marks, whoever made this technology is very advanced and very dangerous. Far away in space, Captain Jake Morrison sat in a small cell aboard the Zephyrian ship. The walls were metal, and the only light came from a dim panel in the ceiling. His crew was being held in other cells nearby, and he could sometimes hear their voices through the walls. The door to his cell opened with a hiss. Commander Drex Cole entered, followed by 2 guards. Time for more tests, human. Jake had been through this 5 times already. The Zephyrians would take him to a room full of strange machines and poke him with needles, scan him with lights, and ask him questions about Earth and human technology. He had told them nothing useful. I'm not telling you anything new, Jake said. You will. All species break down in the end. They walked through the ship's corridors. and Jake tried to remember every turn, every door, every guard post. The ship was huge, with hundreds of rooms and thousands of Zephyrian soldiers. But Jake was learning their patterns, their routines. In the testing room, Jake saw something that made his heart jump. Lisa Carter was there, connected to several machines. She looked tired but angry. "Lisa, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Captain. Just been having long talks with our new friends here." One of the Zephyrian scientists, a female with darker scales, turned to Jake. "Your engineer is very smart. She understands our technology much faster than expected." Jake looked at Lisa and saw something in her eyes. She was trying to tell him something without using words. "Of course she's smart," Jake said loudly. "Lisa can fix anything. She probably understands your junk better than you do." The Zephyrian scientist laughed. "Junk? Our technology has conquered 100 worlds." "Yeah? Well, you haven't met humans before." While the aliens talked, Lisa used hand signals that only her crew would understand. She pointed to different machines and made small gestures. Jake realized she was telling him about the ship's systems, about weaknesses she had found. Back on Earth, President Claire Murphy sat in the Oval Office with her top advisors. Admiral Blake had just finished explaining what they had found in space. "So you're telling me that aliens destroyed one of our ships?" the President asked. "We believe so, Madam President. And if they're hostile, Earth could be in serious danger." General Henry Stone, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. "We need to activate Operation Prometheus immediately." President Murphy nodded slowly. Operation Prometheus was the most secret military project in human history. For 50 years, Earth's governments had been preparing for the possibility of hostile alien contact. Deep underground bases, secret weapons, hidden fleets of ships that officially didn't exist. "Do it," she said. "Send the activation codes." Around the world, lights began turning on in places that had been dark for decades. In underground bunkers beneath the Nevada desert, massive hangar doors opened. In hidden bases on the far side of the moon, crews began preparing ships that used technology most people didn't know existed. Dr. Helen Parker got the call at her laboratory in Colorado. She had been working on reverse engineering theoretical alien technology for 20 years, always hoping she would never need to use it. "It's time, Helen," Admiral Blake's voice said through the secure phone. "We need everything you've got." "I'll be ready in 6 hours," Dr. Parker replied. Aboard the Zephyrian ship, Ben Rodriguez was alone in his cell when he heard a soft beeping sound. He looked around and saw a small device hidden behind a loose panel in the wall. Lisa had somehow managed to leave it there during her trips to the testing rooms. It was a communication device, built from parts she had stolen from the Zephyrian equipment. Ben was the communications expert, and he understood what Lisa had done. She had created a way to send messages back to Earth. Ben worked quickly, connecting the device to the ship's power system. It took him an hour to figure out how to make it work, but finally, he heard the beautiful sound of human radio signals. "Earth. Command, this is Ben Rodriguez of the New Horizon. Can anyone hear me?" The response came immediately. "Rodriguez, this is Admiral Blake. Where are you?" "We're prisoners on an alien ship. Captain Morrison is alive, and so is the rest of the crew. Admiral, you need to listen carefully. These aliens are planning to attack Earth." For the next 10 minutes, Ben told Admiral Blake everything he knew about the Zephyrians. Their ship design, their weapons, their plans, their weaknesses that Lisa had discovered. He described their overconfidence and their belief that humans would surrender easily. "They think we're weak," Ben whispered into the device. "They've conquered lots of other species and they all gave up without much fight. The Zephyrians don't understand that humans are different." "How long do we have?" Admiral Blake asked. "I don't know, but they're planning something big. They keep talking about showing Earth the power of their empire." The communication was cut short when Zephyrian guards walked past Ben's cell. He quickly hid the device and pretended to sleep, but the message had gotten through. For the first time in 3 days, Admiral Blake smiled. "Attention all stations," she said into her command microphone. "Operation Prometheus is now active. All units report to battle stations. It's time to show these aliens what happens when you mess with humans." Around the solar system, hidden bases came online. Secret weapons were armed. Ships that officially didn't exist began moving toward Earth. The Zephyrians thought they were hunting defenseless prey. They were about to discover that humans had been preparing for this fight for half a century, and humans had learned something important from thousands of years of warfare on Earth. The best defense was often a very good attack. The Zephyrian fleet arrived at Earth like a storm of metal and death. 50 massive ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Each vessel was the size of a city, covered in weapons that had burned countless worlds to ash. Ambassador Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue planet through the main viewing screen. "Beautiful world," he said to General Zulnex. "It will make a fine addition to our empire." "The humans have detected us," reported a communications officer. "They are sending radio signals on all frequencies." "Let them panic," General Zulnex laughed. "Fear makes surrender easier." Kethvar activated the fleet's broadcasting system. His voice would reach every radio and television on Earth. "Humans of the planet Earth, I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender immediately and accept our rule. Resist and your world will burn. You have one of your hours to respond." The message ended, and the Zephyrians waited for the humans to beg for mercy. Instead, they got a response that surprised them. Admiral Susan Blake's voice came through space, clear and strong. "Ambassador Kethvar, this is Admiral Blake of Earth. Defense Command, we have received your message. Here is our response. Go home. You picked the wrong species to mess with." General Zulnex could not believe what he heard. "Did she just tell us to go home?" "Impossible," Kethvar said. "They must not understand how powerful we are. Show them." The Zephyrian flagship fired a single energy beam at Earth's moon. The beam was meant to scare, not destroy, but it left a glowing crater 3 miles wide on the lunar surface. Admiral Blake's voice came back immediately. "Thank you for the demonstration. Now let us show you ours." What happened next broke every rule of space combat the Zephyrians knew. Instead of large battle fleets meeting in open space, small human ships appeared from nowhere. They were tiny compared to the Zephyrian vessels, no bigger than fighters, but they moved faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Captain Tony Reeves led the first attack wave in his ship, Lightning Strike. His squadron of 12 fighters hit the edge of the Zephyrian formation and fired weapons that the aliens didn't recognize. The shots tore through Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. "What kind of weapons are those?" General Zulnex demanded. "I don't know," his weapons officer replied. "They're using some kind of quantum energy we've never seen before." Before the Zephyrians could respond, the human fighters disappeared. They used something called micro-jump drives that let them vanish and reappear somewhere else in seconds. "Find them," Zulnex ordered, but the humans were already attacking from a different direction. Captain Sarah Mitchell's squadron appeared behind the Zephyrian fleet and hit their engines. Then they vanished again before the big alien ships could turn around. "This is not how space battles work," Kethvar said angrily. "They should meet us with honor, fleet against fleet." "Humans don't seem to care about honor," his tactical officer replied. "They're using hit-and-run tactics. Attack and disappear, attack and disappear." The Zephyrians tried to adapt, but the humans kept changing their tactics. Sometimes they attacked in groups, sometimes alone. Sometimes they hit hard and ran away. Sometimes they stayed to fight longer battles. The aliens could never predict what would happen next. Colonel Maria Santos watched the space battle from her hidden base on the asteroid Ceres. She commanded 3,000 human soldiers who had been secretly stationed throughout the solar system for exactly this kind of attack. "Zephyrian landing ships are heading for Earth," her communications officer reported. "Perfect." Colonel Santos smiled. "Let them come." The Zephyrian troop ships thought they were flying toward an undefended planet. Instead, they flew into carefully planned ambushes. Human fighters attacked from asteroid bases the aliens didn't know existed. Ground-to-space missiles launched from hidden positions on Mars, Europa, and Titan. Commander Vextar led the first landing wave toward Earth. "Easy target," he told his troops. "These humans have no real military. We'll be on the ground in minutes. His ship exploded before he could finish talking. A missile had hit it from a direction his sensors said was empty space. The other landing ships tried to change course, but more missiles came from other hidden locations. The humans had turned the entire solar system into a weapons platform. On Earth, Dr. Helen Parker worked frantically in her underground laboratory. The quantum weapons and micro-jump drives were based on technology she had developed from studying the alien debris. But she had made them better. The Zephyrian energy shields operate on a single frequency, she explained to her team over the communication system. Our quantum disruptors can change frequency faster than their shields can adapt. It's like having a key that changes shape to fit any lock. In space, Captain Reeves was learning that fighting aliens was different from fighting humans. Their ships are tough, but they're slow to change tactics, he told his squadron. They keep trying the same moves over and over. The Zephyrians were getting frustrated. General Zulnex had never lost a battle in 200 years of conquest. Use the Planet Buster weapon, he ordered. If we can't conquer them, we'll destroy them. Sir, his weapons officer said, using that weapon on an inhabited world is against galactic law. There will be no witnesses, Zulnex replied coldly. But before the Zephyrians could fire their ultimate weapon, something impossible happened. Human ships appeared all around their flagship, not attacking, but forming a protective ring. Captain Morrison's voice came over the communication system. General Zulnex, this is Captain Jake Morrison, remember me? Zulnex turned to stare at the communication panel. That's impossible, you're our prisoner. Not anymore, Jake said. And neither are my crew. Your people made a big mistake when they let Lisa Carter see your ship's systems. She learned everything. The truth was that Lisa had done more than just study Zephyrian technology. She had figured out how to hack into it. While the aliens were busy fighting in space, she had been quietly taking control of their flagship's computer systems. Your weapons are offline, Jake continued. Your engines are offline. Your life support will shut down in 10 minutes unless you surrender. Ambassador Kethvar could not believe what was happening. How is this possible? You're primitives. You just learned to travel between stars. That's exactly why we beat you. Admiral Blake's voice joined the conversation. You've been using the same tactics for centuries. You expect every species to fight the same way. But humans don't follow anyone else's rules. The Zephyrian fleet hung helpless in space. Their advanced weapons were useless against enemies who refused to fight fair. Their overwhelming numbers meant nothing against tactics they had never seen before. You have two choices, Admiral Blake continued. Surrender now, or watch your empire fall apart. Because this is just the beginning. We know where you came from, and we know about all the worlds you've conquered. It's time for them to be free. General Zulnex looked at his damaged fleet, his disabled flagship, and the small human ships that surrounded them like hunting wolves. For the first time in his life, he understood what real fear felt like. The mighty Zephyrian Empire had just been defeated by a species they thought would be the easiest conquest in their history. The galaxy was about to change forever. The news of the Zephyrian defeat at Earth spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On distant worlds that had been conquered decades ago, enslaved species gathered around hidden communication devices to listen to the impossible story. On the mining world of Kepler 7, a group of Altarian workers stopped their digging when they heard the broadcast. Their overseer, a Zephyrian guard named Kolvex, had left his post to watch the battle reports from Earth. "Did you hear that?" whispered Altarian foreman Veltor to his fellow workers. "The humans defeated a full Zephyrian battle fleet." "Impossible," said another worker. "No one defeats the Zephyrians. That's why we've been slaves for 30 years. But the reports kept coming. Human ships had not just won a single battle. They were hunting down Zephyrian vessels throughout the solar system. The mighty empire that had seemed unbeatable was running away from a species they had never heard of before. Aboard the captured Zephyrian flagship, Captain Jake Morrison sat in what used to be Ambassador Kethvar's command chair. Lisa Carter worked at the main computer downloading every piece of information about the Zephyrian Empire. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa said, her voice excited. "I found their military database. They have files on every world they've conquered, every species they've enslaved, every weakness in their empire." Ben Rodriguez looked up from his communication station. "Captain, we're getting messages from all over the galaxy. Other species are asking if the reports about Earth are true." Jake studied the star map that showed the Zephyrian Empire. Red dots marked conquered worlds, thousands of them spread across dozens of star systems. How many people are living under Zephyrian rule? According to this data, about 50 billion beings across 200 worlds, Lisa answered. Jake felt the weight of that number. 50 billion people living as slaves, waiting for someone to free them. He made a decision that would change Galactic history. "Ben, open a channel to Earth. I need to talk to Admiral Blake." Minutes later, Admiral Blake's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Jake could see the busy Earth Defense Command Center. "Good work up there, Captain," Admiral Blake said. "Your intelligence helped us win this battle." "Thank you, Admiral. But I think this battle is just the beginning. We've found information about the entire Zephyrian Empire. There are billions of enslaved people out there who need our help." Admiral Blake was quiet for a moment. Jake could see her thinking about the enormous task they were discussing. "Captain, Earth has never been involved in galactic politics. We've only had faster-than-light travel for 50 years. Maybe that's exactly why we can succeed," Jake replied. "We don't think like everyone else in the galaxy. We don't follow the old rules." On Earth, President Claire Murphy called an emergency meeting of world leaders. Representatives from every nation gathered in a secure video conference to discuss what Jake Morrison had discovered. "The question before us is simple, President," Murphy said. "Do we help free these enslaved worlds, or do we stay home and protect only ourselves?" Prime Minister David Chen of the Asian Federation spoke first. "If we attack the Zephyrian Empire directly, we'll be starting a galactic war." "The war already started when they attacked us," replied President Nicole Laurent of the European Union. "The question is whether we finish it." General Henry Stone presented the military analysis. "Our quantum weapons and micro-jump drives give us a huge advantage. The Zephyrians can't adapt fast enough to our tactics, but their empire is massive. It would take years to liberate every world." "Then we don't liberate them ourselves," said Dr. Alan Foster, who had been studying the alien intelligence reports. "We teach them to liberate themselves." Commander Rachel Torres had been listening to the debate from her new assignment aboard the battlecruiser Terra's Fury. Admiral Blake had put her in charge of developing strategy for fighting the Zephyrian Empire. "I have an idea," Rachel said during a planning meeting with her staff. "Instead of attacking Zephyrian military targets, we attack their communication networks. We broadcast the truth about what happened at Earth to every conquered world." "What good will that do?" asked Colonel Frank Weber, her tactical officer. "It will give enslaved species hope, and hope is the most dangerous weapon of all." The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Human ships would sneak into Zephyrian space and hack into their communication systems. Instead of military attacks, they would wage war with information. Captain Tony Reeves volunteered to lead the first mission. His squadron of fast attack ships jumped into the Proxima system, where the Zephyrians had a major communication hub. "Remember," Tony told his pilots, "we're not here to destroy anything. We're here to free minds." The human ships avoided the Zephyrian patrols and reached the communication station. Lisa Carter had designed special computer viruses that could take over alien systems. In minutes, every screen in the Proxima system displayed the same message. "This is Admiral Susan Blake of Earth Defense Command. The Zephyrian Empire told you they were unbeatable. They lied. We defeated their entire battle fleet at Earth. Freedom is possible. Rise up." The message played over and over, along with video footage of human ships destroying Zephyrian vessels. For the first time in centuries, conquered species saw their oppressors lose. On the industrial world of Vega 3, factory workers stopped their machines to watch the broadcasts. On the agricultural planet of Centauri B, farmers threw down their tools and marched toward the Zephyrian administration buildings. The revolution began slowly, then spread like a disease through the empire. Each world that rose up inspired others. The Zephyrians tried to stop the broadcasts, but human computer viruses were too advanced for their old systems. General Zulnex, now a prisoner on his own ship, watched reports of rebellion across his empire. "This is impossible," he said to Captain Morrison. "Conquered species don't rebel. They accept their fate." "That's your mistake," Jake replied. "You never gave them a reason to hope. You never showed them that rebellion could succeed. All they needed was proof that you could be beaten." Lieutenant Colonel Danny Walsh led the first ground mission to a conquered world. His team of Special Forces soldiers landed on Altair 4, where the local population had begun fighting their Zephyrian overlords. "We're not here to fight your battles. For you," Danny told the Altarian leaders. "We're here to teach you how to win them." The humans brought weapons, but more importantly, they brought knowledge. They taught guerrilla tactics, showed how to build communication networks that the Zephyrians couldn't track, and shared the technology for making quantum weapons. Within weeks, what had started as isolated rebellions became coordinated uprisings. Species that had been enemies for centuries united against their common Zephyrian oppressors. Back on Earth, Admiral Blake watched the reports from across the galaxy. "My God," she said to her staff, "what have we started?" "We've started the end of the greatest evil in galactic history," replied Dr. Foster. "The Zephyrian Empire has kept entire civilizations in chains for over 1,000 years. Now those chains are breaking." Captain Morrison sent regular reports from the captured flagship. "The Zephyrian government is in panic," he reported. "Half their military is dealing with rebellions instead of fighting us. Their supply lines are breaking down, and they're losing contact with outer worlds." "How are they responding, Admiral?" Blake asked. "They're trying to negotiate. Ambassador Kethvar wants to discuss terms for ending the conflict." Admiral Blake smiled coldly. "Tell the ambassador that we don't negotiate with slavers. The only terms we'll accept are complete freedom for every enslaved world and the complete dismantling of their empire." The message that went out to Kethvar was simple: surrender everything or watch your empire burn. The Zephyrians had spent 1,000 years believing they were the strongest force in the galaxy. Now they faced a species that didn't just want to defeat them in battle. The humans wanted to destroy the very idea that one species could enslave another, and they were winning. The Zephyrian homeworld had not seen war in over 500 years. The capital city of Zeph Prime stretched across an entire continent, its golden towers reaching toward the sky like the claws of a giant beast. For centuries, tribute from conquered worlds had made this the richest planet in the galaxy. Now smoke rose from burning buildings as Zephyrian citizens fled through the streets. High Chancellor Vornex, the supreme leader of the Zephyrian Empire, stood in his palace watching the chaos below. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Rebellion on Altair 4. Communication breakdown in the Vega system. Total loss of contact with the Outer Rim territories. "How did this happen?" he demanded from his council of advisors. 6 months ago, we controlled 200 worlds. Now we can't even control our own home system." Senior advisor Kelzon looked at the tactical displays with fear in his yellow eyes. "The humans, Chancellor, they didn't just defeat our fleet at Earth, they turned our entire empire against us." "Impossible. We are the Zephyrians. We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years." "Not anymore," came a voice from the palace entrance. Chancellor Vornex turned to see Captain Jake Morrison walking into the throne room, followed by Admiral Susan Blake and a squad of human soldiers. Behind them came representatives from dozens of species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians. "How did you get into my palace?" Vornex snarled. "Your own guards let us in," Admiral Blake replied calmly. "It seems they're tired of serving an empire that's collapsing around them." Jake stepped forward carrying a datapad that contained everything they had learned about the Zephyrian Empire. "Chancellor, we're here to discuss the terms of your surrender." "Surrender?" Vornex laughed, but the sound was desperate. "I am the supreme ruler of the galaxy's greatest empire. I don't surrender to primitives." "Your empire is gone," said Veltor, the Altarian foreman who had led the rebellion on Kepler 7. "My people are free. The Vegans are free. Dozens of worlds. have declared independence and more join them every day. Admiral Blake activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Red dots that had once marked Zephyrian-controlled worlds were turning green one by one as species declared their freedom. 70% of your territories have rebelled, she said. Your military is scattered across the galaxy trying to fight 100 different wars. Your economy has collapsed because the tribute worlds aren't sending resources anymore. Chancellor Vornex stared at the display, unable to believe what he was seeing. This cannot be happening. We have the strongest military in the galaxy. You had the strongest military, corrected Captain Morrison. But military strength doesn't matter when your own soldiers start questioning why they're fighting. In fact, that was exactly what had happened. Across the galaxy, Zephyrian military units had begun to surrender or simply abandon their posts. When enslaved species rose up, many Zephyrian soldiers discovered they had no desire to kill civilians, fighting for freedom. Lieutenant Colonel Danny Walsh entered the throne room carrying a communication device. Admiral, we're getting reports from the outer systems. The Zephyrian 4th Fleet has surrendered to the rebel coalition on Proxima 7. What about General Zulnex? Admiral Blake asked. Still in custody aboard his flagship. He keeps demanding to know how a primitive species defeated his empire. Jake almost smiled at that. Tell him the same thing I told him at Earth. We won because we're primitive. We don't think like everyone else in the galaxy. Dr. Helen Parker had been studying Zephyrian technology for months, ever since they captured the first ships. She now stood beside Admiral Blake carrying the results of her research. Chancellor, Dr. Parker said, we've analyzed your entire technological base. It's advanced, but it hasn't changed in over 3 centuries. You stopped innovating because you thought you were already perfect. We are perfect, Vornex replied stubbornly. No, you're stagnant. When you met a species that approached problems differently, your perfect technology couldn't adapt fast enough. The truth was even simpler than that. The Zephyrians had become so used to easy victories that they had forgotten how to fight a real war. Every species they had conquered before had used conventional military tactics. The humans had used everything except conventional tactics. Commander Rachel Torres spoke up from her position near the door. We've established the Galactic Liberation Council. Representatives from 87 formerly enslaved worlds have agreed to work together to ensure that no single species can dominate others again. And what of us? Chancellor Vornex asked quietly. For the first time, he sounded defeated. Admiral Blake looked at the Zephyrian leader with something that might have been pity. That depends on you. The species you enslaved want justice, but they're willing to settle for change. Complete disarmament, reparations to the worlds you damaged, and participation in the new galactic government as equals, not rulers. Equals, Vornex spat. We are Zephyrians. We are meant to rule. That kind of thinking is exactly why your empire fell, Jake said. Every species has something valuable to contribute. You could have had willing partners instead of enslaved subjects. The final irony was that the Zephyrian Empire had the resources and technology to make the galaxy a better place for everyone. Instead, they had chosen to use their advantages to dominate others. Ben Rodriguez entered the throne room carrying another communication device. Captain, we're getting a priority message from Earth. Jake took the device and listened to the message. His face grew serious. Admiral, President Murphy wants to know if we're ready to begin the next phase. What? Next phase? Vornex demanded. Admiral Blake looked at the Zephyrian leader with cold determination. The galaxy is a big place, Chancellor. Your empire wasn't the only group of bullies out there. We've detected at least 3 other aggressive species that need to learn the same lesson you just learned. The realization hit Vornex like a physical blow. The humans weren't just ending his empire. They were planning to reshape the entire galaxy. You can't do this, he whispered. You're just one small species on one small world. That's what you thought 6 months ago, Jake replied. How did that work out for you? Captain Tony Reeves had been monitoring galactic communications from his ship in orbit. His voice came through the communication system with excitement. Admiral, you need to hear this. We're getting contact requests from species as far away as the Andromeda border. Word about what happened here has spread beyond our galaxy. Admiral. Blake nodded. Patch them through. A new voice filled the throne room, speaking in heavily accented English. Earth ships. This is Commander Ixnal of the Andromedan Defense Force. We have heard of your victory over the Zephyrian Empire. We request permission to send ambassadors to discuss mutual interests. Jake looked at Admiral Blake and saw the same thought in her eyes. They had started this conflict to defend Earth from one hostile alien empire. Now they were apparently becoming the leaders of an intergalactic liberation movement. Tell them they're welcome, Admiral Blake said. But make it clear that we're not interested in creating a new empire. We're interested in making sure no one creates any empires at all. As the communication ended, Chancellor Vornex slumped in his throne. The great Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, was finished. And it had all started because they made one simple mistake. They had messed with humans. Captain Morrison looked out through the palace windows at the city below. Zephyrian civilians were coming out of their hiding places, talking to human soldiers and representatives from the liberated worlds. Some looked angry, but many looked curious, maybe even hopeful. Admiral, Jake said, I think we're going to need a bigger fleet. Admiral Blake smiled. It was going to be a very interesting galaxy from now on. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation was about to begin, and it had all started because a small blue planet had refused to kneel.